There is this super interesting passage in the end of the book of Luke called the road to Emmaus. And before I get into that story about these two disciples on this road and this wonderful person that they get to walk with, I want us to go back to another story in Luke chapter 10 about the Good Samaritan. Now, I hope you've heard it, and if you haven't heard it or read it, definitely take some time today to read Luke chapter 10. I think it starts off in verse 25. But I just want to share with you guys the story of the Good Samaritan in case you don't know it. And the Good Samaritan is this story of basically these robbers rob this man and they cast him to the side and leave him for dead. And what happens is a priest walks by, and you're going to assume that this priest is going to take care of him, right? Any pastor would take care of someone who's hurting. But the priest goes the other way around this man. Doesn't want any type of, doesn't want to get his hands dirty, to say. But then a Levite comes, right? And you're going to think, the Levites and the priest and whatnot, he's going to take care of him. Well, the Levite doesn't either. But it says a Samaritan who should have no dwellings with this type of folk, this type of people, chooses to take care of this man. He binds him up, binds his wounds, takes him into an inn, pays for everything, and he has dinner with him and makes sure he's better before he sends him on his way. That is the Good Samaritan, right? That's how we should love our neighbors. Now, I want you guys to recall that story in your mind and think about that for a second. And I want you just to put it in the back of your mind right now. And I want us to read this chapter on the road to Emmaus at the end of Luke. So I'm starting off right in Luke chapter 24, okay? In verse 13, it says this: "That very day, two of them," this is talking about two disciples, not of the 12, but two disciples, "were going to a village named Emmaus, and about 7 miles from Jerusalem." And that's quite a ways in a walking while. And it says that they were talking with each other about all these things that had happened. They're talking about the crucifixion and everything that's going on, because this is after the crucifixion, right? This is about 3 days after. And what do we know what happens after 3 days? The resurrection. So they're talking about the things that have happened. They don't know Jesus is resurrected yet. And it says that Jesus, while they were walking and talking, Jesus himself drew near to them, right? And he went with them. But this is the interesting part. It says, but their eyes, talking about the disciples, were kept from recognizing Jesus. They didn't know it was Jesus. They thought it was just some stranger. Now, in that conversation below with the next about 8 verses, Jesus and these two disciples are talking about all the events that have happened. And these disciples are surprised by this stranger not knowing about this Son of God, this prophet that was killed on a cross, and how they went to a tomb earlier that day and they can't find the body. There's all this scatter and this turmoil and this confusion going on in this town, and there's this stranger who doesn't know what's going on. These disciples are kind of like, well, how do you not know about what's happening in this time? Of course, Jesus knows what's going on, but he begins to teach these disciples about the Old Testament and all the things concerning himself. And as they're talking, they're walking down this road, they don't know it's Jesus. The end of the day draws near. And in verse 28, it says, they drew near to the village to which they were going. And he, Jesus, acted as if he was going to go farther. But they urged him, saying, stay with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is now far spent. So Jesus went in and stayed with them. Now, these disciples were like, hey, Jesus, well, they don't know it's Jesus, but they're saying, hey, stranger, don't keep going, because the night is going down, and at nighttime, good things don't happen on this road. This is a long road to Emmaus, and if you're alone, you're probably going to walk into trouble. You're probably going to get robbed, so let's take care of you. You can stay with us. Now, I don't know about you, but it's kind of hard to let a stranger stay with you. And so the stranger, Jesus, stays with them. And after Jesus breaks bread with them, they realize it's the Son of God. Their eyes are open, and then he vanishes. The point I want to make here with the Good Samaritan in this story is that these disciples were being good Samaritans. They were being good people to this neighbor, this stranger. And because of that, they were blessed by having a dinner and a meal with the Son of God, the resurrected Son of God. I wonder what happens in our life when we are good Samaritans. And I wonder what type of blessings and hidden surprises come for us when we choose to do good things. Not saying that we should do it for good things. These disciples didn't do it because they knew it was Jesus. Remember, they didn't know it was him. But I want to encourage you guys today, as you ponder everything and you go through your daily routine, just think about how amazing of an opportunity this was for these disciples. And think about what can happen in your life if you're a good Samaritan.